Hello and welcome to the Save It for the podcast. I'm one of your hosts, not Barack Obama, but Neiman Iraqi. And joined with me is Golem. I didn't tell you to be here.
Excuse me, frog in my throat. Anyway, so hi, I'm Aaron.
Hello, Aaron. Hi.
Hi, Neiman.
Hi.
Hi. Oh
Hi.
my god.
Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
god. What is this? Is this a podcast, bro? Oh my god.
Whoa, don't tease me, bro. It's an old meme for any of you
It's an
meme
old
veterans.
Yes, meme veterans. My occupation. I have my glass of water with me.
And I have my thermo flask.
Oh, look at you flexing on me with your thermo flask.
Got it right next to my puka shells.
Oh my god. Oh gosh. I had my thermostat with me in this room, but I moved it somewhere and I don't remember where exactly. And I moved it because I finally I finally had the materials to fix up my PS3,
Mm-hmm.
which I did. Yay! I can now play
Yay!
Far Cry.
Woo!
Woo! So yeah. Ooh, that's a good topic to talk about, actually.
Far Cry.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Oh my goodness. I am so sorry.
You don't have to apologize. It's not your
I
fault.
Yeah, I am so sorry. I've been having internet troubles for the past decade or so, gosh.
You're all good. It's still recording, so
Okay, cool.
yeah. Hopefully, I just talked. I wasn't sure if you could hear me
You
or not.
talked?
I know I
What
did.
is this, a podcast? Oh my god.
Crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff. But yeah, I was just mentioning I just fixed my PS3 and I can play Far Cry now. Yeah. So,
Would you recommend Far Cry to any? Like,
ooh,
what type of player does Far Cry appeal
I,
to?
I mean, honestly, it's kind of a flexible game.
Mm.
To be honest, like I haven't played Far Cry, Primal or Far Cry 5, the new Far Cry games. I have heard good things about Far Cry Primal. Aside from that, I have played Far Cry 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And honestly, whichever game you play, it's a good game. Whether you're a story-driven gamer or like or just you want to focus on gameplay. There are just so many side quests to do and so many things to collect and so many stuff. Just there's so much stuff going on in the worlds in
Mm-hmm.
the game. So if I were to recommend a specific game, though, it would be either Far Cry 2 or Far Cry 4. uh,
Okay.
the most iconic Far Cry game I have noticed is Far Cry 3. It doesn't appeal to me per se. I mean, like yes, it is an awesome game. It is fun. It is, it still has the Far Cry feel to it. I just prefer Far Cry 4. It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just yeah.
Yeah, and the
I,
most recent one is which one?
Far Cry Fallout? No, I'm not too sure which one like what the name is. It's about like the Fallout that spoilers.
Oh,
Oh,
spoiler alert.
spoiler alert. It's from the Fallout that happened after the nukes and stuff dropped in Far Cry 5.
Ah,
Um, have you played those games? I'm so sorry.
I have not. I have not played, so this is all new information to me.
Oh, I am so sorry.
No, it's okay. I wasn't planning on playing it, so
Okay, gotcha. Oh yeah, Far Cry New Dawn. Yeah, that's the new game, New
yeah.
Dawn. But yeah, like most of the Far Cry games are not related to each other, so
Mm-hmm.
like the spoiler I gave is just like
Is
you
just
know
for
is just for Far Cry 5.
gotcha.
So
Okay,
yeah, uh,
gotcha. So I
but
can play the other
yeah,
games at least.
oh my god. But yeah, would you I just lost my train
Would
of thought. I
I?
need to hydrate. Would you now? Oh my gosh.
Reminds me
Oh,
of that Chowder episode. If you remember, have you watched Chowder?
Chowder?
Chowder. It
Which
was on Cartoon Network from about, ooh, God, I don't remember off the top of
Ooh.
my head. I can look it up real quick. But Chowder was a show on Cartoon Network that, no, I'm not looking for the food. I'm looking for the TV series. But it was a show on Cartoon Network that was probably one of my all-time favorite shows. Ran
Hmm.
from 2007 to 2010, which about sounds right in my head. But it's a great show where basically it was just a bunch of really, like, the art style was like really great, and they really had, I think, a really unique art style that they had in the show. And the main character was Chowder, which, yes, is based off the actual soup
Oh.
food type thing. Um, you good?
Yeah, I just looked it up right now. Yeah, I do remember
Yeah.
seeing something like this. Yeah, but
Um,
keep going, please. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. And all of the uh, the characters of the show are indeed based off various foods, such as truffles. I think,
Hmm.
I don't know if it was truffle or truffles. And there was also gazpacho, and I think Mung was his name, the little blue father type figure thing. But it was a great show, and the reason I was reminded of it was because when you said, "Would you?" There was this one bit they had in a Chowder episode where, and Chowder is like this really like happy-go-lucky, very naive, very young kind of
So
character.
average cartoon
So an average
protagonist. Yeah.
cartoon, yeah, protagonist, right? And at one point, this person is asking Chowder, "Would you like a lollipop?" And then Chowder's like, "Would I?" And then she's like, "Would you? Would I? Would you?" And then it keeps
Yeah.
going on for like literally like 3 minutes, which was kind of
Oh my
crazy. But
gosh.
I was laughing the entire time watching it as a kid.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't discover Cartoon Network until like 2010, I think.
Mm,
And even then, I was more of a Nickelodeon or Disney Channel kid.
yeah.
Disney.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That, excuse me? What? Oh, I watch Nickelodeon mostly. Oh yeah, that makes sense
That
with your
explains
dumb
a
ass.
lot. King, of course.
With
I
your
always,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No.
I always switched. Uh, I personally always switched between Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon,
Mm,
just because I didn't have Disney XD, so I didn't grow up watching any like Jetix or Disney XD shows, and so I would always remember Disney Channel would always be the one I would go to really late at night
mm.
because obviously they had Nick at Night and
Yeah.
Adult Swim, which I wasn't allowed to watch. So
You
I would
watched
watch,
Adult
like,
Swim? Oh my
I
god.
know.
Oh my
So
god.
that's why I watched like That's So Raven, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, all on Disney Channel late at night, because I couldn't watch, Nick at Night or Adult Swim, um, except for when the parents weren't in the room. So
Yeah.
that's how my television
Oh
childhood
gosh.
was.
Drake and Josh was one of the first
Mm,
shows I watched in Nickelodeon, and I'd like stay up late at night, and by late at night I mean like 9. So yeah,
that is
for
so late, man.
yeah,
Why do you
yeah,
stay up
for
so late?
listen, for a child who grew up who grew up under strict parents, that was late for
Yeah,
me. Okay,
I get it.
and they'd be like, Aaron, go to sleep, and I'd be like, I'd hiss and jeer and be like, no, Drake and Josh. So, so yeah, but yeah, gosh, it's been so long since I watched Drake and Josh. I
Oh
kind of
yeah,
feel sad now.
I know because
Oh
they're
man,
they're really old now,
yeah.
or like they feel old,
Yeah,
just because
it just like go looking back on it, it just gosh.
I know.
I remember watching, I think it was a movie about Drake and Josh where they were essentially kidnapped by like I can't exactly remember the details, but like
Hmm.
bad guys kidnapped them and they wanted
Yeah,
to print money and like that
I
kind of
vaguely
thing.
remember this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like gosh. And like Josh's computer was switched with the bad guy's computer, but like the one thing um that I was shocked about was like there'd be a joke in it
Hmm.
and there wouldn't be like the laugh track. And I'd be like, where are all the people? Oh my gosh, it's
No,
so empty now. I don't even feel like laughing anymore. So oh gosh.
I
It was
know.
so
Yeah,
long ago. I watched it in a hotel room. I remember it so vividly.
I know. Yeah,
Oh, man,
those are the days.
those were the days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my sister was mostly the one who watched a lot of the Drake and Josh, just because I, by the time I started watching TV, I mainly remember iCarly,
Mm.
just because it was another Dan Schneider show, and
Yes.
at the time I thought, Dan Schneider, and I think still today, I think compared to some of the other like shows on Nickelodeon, Dan Schneider has some really like funny, like some genuinely funny
Yeah.
content in a lot of his shows. And so I remember iCarly the most, just because like I remember like seeing the premiere for iCarly and being like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this is so crazy. And now it's
Dude,
over. It's like very nostalgia, you know?
yeah. I remember watching the premiere episode and just like, you know, I didn't exactly care about, Carly or Sam, I think.
Yeah.
Like the
Freddie,
yeah, Freddie, Sam.
Gibby.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah. But yeah, I didn't care at all. I thought it was just going to be another one of those shows that I never watched. Then I saw Carly's brother, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's hilarious! I'm going to watch the hell out of this."
Yeah.
So, yeah, gosh,
So true.
so long
Hmm.
ago.
I
But
know. It
yeah,
does feel like long ago.
I guess, I mean, I guess us watching these shows and whatnot are what like motivated us into like an artsy career and whatnot. Which reminds me, look at
I
that!
know.
Look
That
at
was
that! I
that was
just did a.
about as smooth as a Raid Shadow Legends transition.
Yes.
Like,
So speaking
you
of
know,
what we're doing and why we're doing it, we've actually asked you guys a bunch of questions. Or we asked you to ask us a bunch of questions, and some of the most of the questions actually were stuff that we're going to save for the can of worms episode, but one question in particular actually drew my interest, so to speak, and it was what inspired you guys to pursue the art/career you guys are pursuing.
oh,
And it's a wholesome question, compared to other questions we've been asked. Uh,
yes, which
yeah.
we will save. Um,
So
just
yeah,
because, yeah,
yeah.
great. Would you like to start?
I was thinking you would start
That's fine too. Okay, it's just a question. Okay.
because my internet is doing an uppity, and I was thinking I might like fix it up a bit while you were answering the question.
Okay, let's just hope you don't disconnect.
I
Those
know.
fingers are
Fingers
crossed.
are crossed.
But yeah, so what inspired me? Okay, great. I guess I'll start with the arts, I suppose. Just because I think for me, at least for me, my career choice and my decision to go into the arts, in high school, I think are two different things, but are still very intertwined, right? So in terms of the arts, um, you know, I think my very first play exposure was in elementary school. I went to Stone Creek Elementary School, and we did this sixth grade play, which, some people may or may not have done. Um, talking to different people just depended on which school they went to. But we did this play called Vacation to Mars. And obviously, elementary school kids weren't old enough to understand, at least at our school, what
The intricacies.
yeah, and the intricacies of theater. So we were all assigned roles, and I was assigned basically one of the lead roles, which was tour guide number 2, I think was what I was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's tour guide number 2. And I remember saying all the jokes in the script and hearing all the parents laugh. Granted, yeah, it was like 30 parents because it was a 6th grade play. But when I heard all those laughs, I was like, wow, this feels great. And I think that was my first exposure really to laughter, I think, from an audience. And I was really hooked at that point. Problem was I had terrible stage fright. Still kind of do, even up to, this day, which I can get into later. But come high school, I also did a middle school play, but it wasn't like any like actual like scripted play. It was just, something my English teacher found, online. Very entertaining to say the least. Interesting factoid, Cole Jensen from Crash and Bernstein, Bernstein, who was Cole Jensen, actually went to my middle school, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, he was in the same play as me, so that was pretty cool. We ended up going to different high schools though, and I'm not really sure what he's up to now. But anyway, yeah, did middle school play. Come high school, I decided to audition for Comedy Sports, which is the improv troupe over at University High School. Initially, I didn't want to, just because, I was like, I have terrible stage fright. How do I make people laugh? Even though I knew I liked making people laugh. And without going too much into it because of time, I had a lot in
Dude, we got time. Don't worry.
Yeah, those fingers are crossed.
Get all into it.
Okay.
Spill all the tea.
I don't know if there is any tea to spill, but I'll try.
As you sip out of your thermostat.
Filled with water and a little bit of tea.
Just a little tea.
A little teeny bit. But, another thing in middle school, too, kind of as just some of my art aspirations that I didn't really unleash yet. In middle school, I also went on a trip to Washington, D.C., over to the East Coast. And one of my friends challenged me to make 100 different puns before the end of the trip. And the trip was 5 days. And he challenged me right at the beginning. He said, Neiman, I'm going to challenge you to make 100 different puns by the end of this trip. And so I did. I made 100 different puns. Granted, they were terrible puns. They were absolutely horrible. Like the most distinct pun I remember was I went up to my friends, right? And I was like, hey guys, so you know how my name is Neiman, right?
Yeah.
Neiman, Neiman, Neem off. Insert Dan Schneider laughter track.
No, I believe believe someone important in the past said puns are the highest form of literature. I think we've just proven them wrong. I am not too sure though.
It was really bad. I did have some good ones, but unfortunately I don't remember the good ones. So I did end up making 100 different puns, which was great. But that kind of, again, just really solidified, like, I really like making people laugh and seeing the smiles on people's faces, which at the end of the day is really what I'm motivated by. And also I'll get into that a little bit later. But come high school, improv, initially I didn't want to do it just because I was like, I got to focus on academics and all that. And, my sister was actually the one who told me about Comedy Sports, and she was like, you should audition for it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I eventually auditioned for it. Um, in the audition room, I sat in the corner because I didn't know anyone, because everyone came from schools where they knew each other. I didn't know anyone. I sat in the corner by myself. I was really scared because I had never really like auditioned like formally for something. Because when I auditioned like in my drama class, it was like it's like you audition, but you're in the play, ha ha ha, kind of thing. But um, yeah, and I got in, which
Yeah.
was great, and quite frankly, I think has changed my life. Um, it. I think comedy sports really led me down a path of and the one thing I will say is I've never really been one to think of hypotheticals, in that I've never really been one to think about, oh, what if this didn't happen? What if I, didn't get on the team? Like, what if I made all the friends? I'm usually very future oriented, in that, the past is the past. I can't do anything about it. I can only change the future. So might
Mm,
as well, put my main focus on the future. That's how my personality is, right?
yeah.
Because I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't get into the play. It's like, that's correct. What are you going to do now? Okay, if you keep, moping around about it, that's not going to help you get into future plays. So that's always been my personality, right?
Mm,
And the reason I bring that up is because, you know, I recently and actually thought about a revelation of, because I was thinking about it, right? I do genuinely feel like improv has changed my life. But then I think about it again, and I think back to the times of where, in elementary school and middle school, I made people laugh and I really liked it,
right.
right? And
Yeah.
it really made me think about whether or not, this is going to sound really cheesy, but I'm not really sure how to word this. I'm not really sure if I was born to make people laugh, in that I know it's so cheesy. Okay, I can
No,
kind of
dude, it's
reword that.
wholesome. It's wholesome. No, dude, it's wholesome.
What
Please.
I mean by that is I don't know if I innately had a want to, perform in front of an audience, or if that's something that I learned. Because I
Mm.
remember having this huge stage fright, especially towards the beginning of the years. I remember the very first comedy sports match, I peed 3 times before going on stage. Um, and luckily it was in the bathroom. But as soon as I got on stage, I remember like sweating profusely, and it was just so hot. And I was just so nervous. But after, again, hearing the laughter and seeing the smiles was just so rewarding that I, had to continue doing it. And that eventually led me to audition for the plays over at uni.
Right.
And the reason I think that I wanted to do the plays um, was because, well, first off, I didn't really have a direction yet in high school. During my first 2 years of high school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do in the future. And honestly, excuse me, freshman year, didn't I didn't think I was going to do anything. Like I thought I was just going to do clubs, or no, sorry, not clubs. I only thought I was just going to do my classes, maybe like 1 or 2 clubs of like, math club or something like that. Because my sister, well, first off, my parents went to high school in the Philippines. So they had a completely different high school experience and couldn't really talk about, doing extracurriculars, making friends or stuff like that, just because they had a really different experience. And going to college is also a different uh, experience over in the Philippines too.
Right.
And then with my sister, she wasn't able to do a lot of extracurriculars because at the time my parents were the only people who can drive, and they worked night shift at a hospital, so they couldn't pick up my sister if she did anything after school. And so she was very limited in her options, which was really sad. And so I luckily had the pleasure, just because by the time I got to high school my sister was able to drive, I luckily had the ability to do those extracurriculars like comedy sports, like theater. So I'm very grateful for that. But uh, anyway, theater. I got into theater. I think really I got into theater because, I wanted a change of pace, I think, after doing improv. And I loved improv. That wasn't going to go away. But I saw the theater people my freshman year, and I didn't have a community yet. And I can get into it a little bit later. My improv community, I guess I should say, or theater community, it kind of went. I primarily focused on comedy sports freshman year. I think theater my sophomore year, a little bit of mixed junior year, and then back to comedy sports. So it kind of went like and I'll get into that later because there's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of drama, and not the good drama, the bad, drama and tea associated with that.
Ooh.
But I did theater. I wanted to change a pace. And that's, yeah. And after auditioning, which again, I was super nervous for, had not auditioned, like, oh my God, this room is so big and I don't know, oh my God. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to like when you
Yes.
audition for the play, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a lot, especially the first time. And so when I found out I got on, I was like super happy, and also did not, or could not in any way have expected the kind of experience it was going to be, just because it was so different. I think the first year, at least, it was great. I mean, I loved it so much. The people were great. People were nice. The bathroom talks. Oh my gosh, I can't even. You can attest to that
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Bathroom talks were just so out there.
Oh gosh.
And honestly, is probably
The
a lot.
highlight.
Yeah, the highlight, and a lot of the reason why I stayed. Like, it wasn't even for performing; it was for hanging out with all of my friends in the bathroom.
Dude, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's not even just about the talks. Like, you actually basically like lived there.
Yeah.
Since not everybody is on the stage at the same time, you just kind of sort of hung around, did stuff. And let's not get too much into it, or our director is gonna hunt us down and lash out at us or something like that.
That's true. Yeah, I can talk about Renee for a while, but that's a whole, like, we can put that in a can of worms episode, just because I can go on for a very long time.
Same.
But for just so I can let you speak, I'm going to end it right there for now, and then we can get into the career stuff later. So, how did you get into the arts, Aaron? I know I went a very long time, so it's only fair that I allow you the same amount.
Yeah, I know. You went for a long time, man. What is this, a podcast? Oh my gosh. Dude, no, go on for as long as you want. I was kind of like tinkering around with my laptop a bit, making sure it wouldn't die out on me again. So
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost you. I cannot hear a thing.
Blah blah blah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there we go. Okay. I was doing a test for a second. Jesus, that scared me. Okay. So well-oiled machine. So,
right.
How I got into the arts. Well, before I get into it, actually, 30-minute mark. Just putting that out there. How I got into the arts. Well, I guess I got into the arts from age 3 onward, so to speak, because here's the story. I essentially saw my dad playing the piano, and I don't remember much of it, but apparently I said something like, me too, me too. And my parents were like, okay, we need to get you a teacher, and we're gonna get you to learn how to play the piano and with that kind of thing. And 4.5 years old, we got this scary, Russian teacher lady who was the who was, in my opinion, the one of the best teachers, period,
Mm-hmm.
um, that I had in a long time, because like she was stubborn, she was hard to work with, but god damn it, she could get results, and
Mm-hmm.
like we so I had a Russian teacher, and we had like a old Russian piano in our house, which is what I
Mm-hmm.
played and practiced on.
Yeah, you really like Russian things, I guess. The
Yeah,
Russian teacher. I'm kidding.
it was actually kind of a coincidence, but like that kind of playing on that piano kind of got my hands to be tougher than anything else, because you really had to like essentially beat the piano to
Right,
get
yeah.
something out of it. And that's kind of how I got into the art world, from a very young age. I just
Mm-hmm.
started playing the piano. I did some like stuffs, showcases in
Yeah.
school and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I didn't stay in one school for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I moved from one school to the next and one school to the next, and kind of essentially got like shifted around a bit.
Yeah.
And eventually I got into a school called METÜ in English, ODTÜ in Turkish, which is the Middle Eastern Technic University School,
Mm-hmm.
which was connected to the Middle East Technic University.
Yeah.
And which is kind of a coincidence, because when I moved to America, I also attended a high school which was connected to a university, university high school. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Coincidence? I think
Hmm.
not. Hmm.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Destined for greatness you are.
Shut up. No. Um. But aside from that, I like. I guess I stood out in any school I went to, because first off, because of how well, quote unquote, I played the piano, because I started from such a young age,
Yeah.
and because how you know, how well I spoke English, because I went to an international school early
Yeah.
on. And, I think I talked about this in an earlier episode. I've learned
Mm-hmm.
from, Australian and British, American, all those kinds of teachers.
Yeah.
And eventually I got into METU, and, I was kind of used to getting into a new environment with, complete strangers around me at that point. So,
Yeah.
I was kind of a loner for the first 2 years, fourth and fifth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I got into sixth grade, and I started opening up just, bit by bit, mostly because of my music teacher, who
Was this
told me,
the same music teacher or
no, definitely,
no
absolutely
different?
not.
Okay.
No. Uh, yeah, I still got lessons from her, but, it's, yeah. But this was a different music teacher who told me I had a good bass, like
Oh,
good
like
bass
voice?
tone. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
good voice for singing. And I was just a child, so my voice being deep was
Hmm.
what did in fact make me stand out a bit more. And eventually my music teacher got me to play the piano in front of the whole class, and I started making friends.
Yay.
Yay. But by this time I had actually sort of dipped my toes into theater.
Mm-hmm.
uh I think it was in third grade,
Mm-hmm.
when I attended a school which really wasn't a good experience for me, but drama was kind of my getaway sort of vessel,
Yeah.
because this was a school where people who lived more comfortably sent their kids into. And
Mm-hmm.
I lived not as comfortably as these people. So
Right.
I was kind of the black sheep of the
Mm-hmm.
of the classroom. And how classrooms work in Turkey was, you didn't like register for a certain class or two. No, you essentially got into a shube, right? Which was kind of like the group you moved with, the
Mm,
herd you went into class with. And
yeah.
all of these people you had the same classes with. So I was essentially stuck with the same, you know, 20 douchebags for an
Yeah.
entire year until I eventually transferred out of there. And drama was my getaway
Mm.
thingamajig.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into drama club. I also got
Whoa.
into, farm club, which the school had a farm. Um, the animals were not that taken care of, and I think they got into trouble for that later on. Thankfully, you treat animals well, or
Mm-hmm.
we will confiscate your kneecaps. But yeah, so and eventually when I got into Metu,
Mm-hmm.
I continued doing drama, and by this time I actually learned about how my family, my extended family was doing drama as well.
Oh wow.
My
Yeah.
mom's uncle and his sons as well were in theater,
Wow.
and
That's awesome.
they actually did a show once. I will never forget that. They actually did a show about ancient Greece and how women tricked men into like it
That's
had a
crazy.
whole plot on its own, and I can go on and on about it, but just yeah. And my grandfather from my mother's side was really big into the arts and theater and that kind of thing, and it really stuck with me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Especially this one time where he was the main character of a short movie. And
Wow. Mm-hmm.
it just, I remember watching it, and it was essentially about this old fellow who was trying to get the attention of his kids to come and visit him, and he was so
Oh,
lonely, and it was accompanied by, sad music and whatnot. And I remember my grandpa being there to show me that, and I remember crying, bawling my eyes out. My grandpa, no, like I hugged him and I was like, no, 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 it's not about you, it's not about you, don't worry. He was comforting me, and it just and he would make me read all of these books and play chess with me and just
Mm-hmm.
keep my mind working
Yeah.
and whatnot. So it just really stuck with me,
Yeah.
and I just kept on playing the piano, and eventually when I hit 8th grade, I unfortunately stopped taking piano classes from the teacher. We still kept contact and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing, but aside from that, I really didn't see her anymore, unfortunately, and that kind of stalled my progress you know in piano,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. So um but yeah, 8th grade is essentially where the 8th graders take a big government mandated test to
Mm.
determine which school they're gonna go to and that
Ooh.
kind of thing. I just moved on and continued on attending Metu in high school, so it really wasn't a big deal for me. But it's still you still have to study for the exam, and it's a
Yeah.
big deal and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But yeah, and when I got into high school, it was kind of mm, it was an unmotivated time for me, I guess, because in
Mm-hmm.
8th grade, I went through a sort of semi-serious surgery,
Mm-hmm.
like appendix removed and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So that's uh, that kind of hindered my ability to move and be athletic and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just at that point that puberty kicked in and all these emotions and whatnot. And I was just
Yeah.
kind of I was just kind of closed off
Mm-hmm.
from other
Yep.
people at that
Puberty does
point.
that to you.
Yeah. Thankfully, I still managed to keep contact with my friends and talk with them, joke around
It's
with them.
awesome.
And even though I was kind of sad time to time, I still managed to I guess I improved a bit,
Mm-hmm.
at that point I started looking up to who's basically like a stand-up legend in the country, Cem Yilmaz.
Mm-hmm.
He's he's the most well-known stand-up comedian in the country, and his jokes are legendary, you know. And I started looking up to him. I started, joking around more, laughing more, that kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. And uh, I started paying more attention to literary classes and that kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. And
Yes, we stand literary classes.
indeed, and by sophomore year, it became apparent that my dad had won a green card, and we were going to move to America, and like that kind of shocked me for a bit. And I told my friends I was like this and that, and they're like, oh well, congratulations, you're gonna go to America, you're gonna be a big balls businessman and that kind of thing. And
And gonna
and
drink your beer with the boys on Saturday night.
I'm a self-made man. Rugged
Yeah,
individualism. Watch the Can of
yeah,
Worms episode.
yeah.
But yeah, and by that time, it really became apparent to me what kind of person I had become at that point, because I
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't paying attention. I thought, like in in America, it's still better because you can't there are people who pursue theater as a career. In
Mm-hmm.
Turkey, it's just unthinkable.
Mm,
Because the starving artist is just ingrained in everybody's minds. And
yeah.
sure, you can get a scholarship to a school you really want, but as a career,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're from a family that's
Already.
spends it already in the business and
Yeah.
spends all their time in the business, there's no way you're going to succeed in that
Yeah.
unless you're doing something at the side, and by the side I mean you have a full-time job that
Job.
pays for an
Right.
apartment and a full family and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So when it became apparent that we were going to move to America, I was like, oh my gosh, huh, this is a new thing. I can pursue the arts, maybe, probably. Why not? Yeah.
So you weren't expecting
I
that at
was not
all.
expecting, no, I was not expecting that at all. I thought, if the arts are going to help me at all, it's going to probably let me gain a scholarship or something, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm just never going to remember it again. But that's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, this is one of the things I'm never going to forget. I was taking a linguistics class
Mm-hmm.
in my sophomore year, and our teacher was one of the coolest teachers out there, and we shared the same bus together, and we had a conversation every now and then, and she was awesome. And last day, last class we had in the year, and what was basically my last class, last linguistics class in Turkey, period.
Mm-hmm.
um we all went outside as a class, and she told us to write down stuff about everyone in the class, and we would read it out loud. We would sit in the circle, read it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not expecting anybody to say anything about me, because sure, I was funny and quirky, I guess, but I was still pretty antisocial and that kind of stuff. And it got to me, and my friends started an argument about what I would be in the future. And some of the stuff were famous movie star, famous theater star, diplomat, author. And I was like, no, what? No,
These are all so
what
successful.
is happening right now? Why are you telling me these things? Stop. And I was so happy, and I was bawling my eyes out, and people were
Oh.
like, why are you crying? We're saying all these good things. And I was like, because you're saying all these good things. And I was ugly crying the rest of the
Oh.
class period. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh. That's so
Uh
sweet. I love moments like that.
yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, and gosh, one other thing, we had to read Siddhartha as for a freshman grade literature class we had, and we have essentially had to do not a bit, not a bit or anything like that, but more of a literary storytelling kind of kind of a a seminar or something.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my friends, we got together and we were like, we have to do a bit. We have to do like a funny little bit. And Siddhartha is essentially about this guy like reaching nirvana. I think I didn't read the book. I
Mm-hmm.
I never do.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sorry. But I was elected to play the Buddha,
Oh,
and
that's
I
great.
played it,
That's great.
and uh, like I played it well, I think. And the next time we had to do like a seminar, I played like a really old person. Like the next seminar was about an old Turkish book that was about like bandits roaming the countryside after the independence war, and it was all about these like serious stuff, affairs, murder, betrayal, that kind of stuff. What is the meaning of loyalty? And I played this cranky old woman who turned out to be a French secret agent, and it was
Oh
it
man,
was my first taste in skits and funny stuff, and I loved it. It just stuck with me the entire
that's
time.
awesome. That's
And I
really
moved to
awesome.
America, and I had that period of time where that nearly all immigrants have, I guess, of being in a strange new land.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I did take a drama class because I was still interested in all that kind of stuff.
Ooh.
And that's not where we met. We did meet like 2 times in our junior year, but like
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know you. And I was afraid to approach you, actually, because in my point of view, you know you were like so above me in everything, like, oh gosh,
What?
he is so involved and so academic
That's
and so
crazy.
theater, heavy, and like, he's in plays and whatnot. And I saw you and I was like, senpai. So
Wow, I was your
yeah,
senpai. My
yeah,
God, I'm
exactly.
flattered. Thank
So
you for those
yeah,
comments. I appreciate that.
yeah. and and like the next year, my senior year, I was essentially motivated into auditioning for Get Smart, the play we were in together.
Woo!
And woo, and I got through the audition. I was surprisingly calm, actually, which freaked me out, because like, which you know made me stumble more than anything else, because I was expecting myself, being myself, to be a nervous wreck. So
Yeah,
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 but surprisingly, I got through it, and I got to play an old ass man.
yeah. You did.
Yeah,
Oh
old ass
man.
old ass man. High five.
Yeah.
There we go.
So that
We're
was the
self.
internet lag. That was
Yeah,
why it
exactly.
ended.
Yeah. Aside from that, it was perfect. Uh,
Oh man.
but yeah, and I'm motivated to pursue theater or like other gigs and whatnot as well, because I like to make people laugh. I like to make people cry. I like people to feel emotions with me. You know,
Yeah,
like whether it be like that clarity moment after a laughter or catharsis after a really dramatic play.
yeah.
I live to give people experience.
Mm-hmm.
As cheesy as it sounds, now we're even.
It's all right. Yeah, it's okay. I was
Yeah.
born to make people laugh. It's okay.
Ugh. But yeah, currently, like, when all this quarantine stuff is over, I'm planning on like, uh I don't know, maybe I'm planning on get it like maybe applying for Disneyland or Not Scary Farm,
It's
something
awesome. Yeah.
something near me, because I like to make people scared also.
Yeah.
I see jump scares as a cheap movie mechanic, but
Hmm.
unless I'm the one doing it.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's my story. 50-minute mark. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, 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 no. You don't. Yeah, that's awesome. No, that was a really. I really like that.
Yeah.
It was a very touching story.
There are a
Yeah.
lot of stuff I cut out because I don't want the Turkish government to, probe my
Yeah.
anus or something like that.
That's what they
Yeah,
do,
but yeah.
right? Yeah.
Um,
No, I was gonna say. Oh yeah, were you going to say something? Sorry, I feel
no,
like I cut you off.
I was asking what you were gonna say.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I was just making sure.
We're
Okay.
just so nice to
Um,
each other, Neiman. Oh
I
my
know, I
god.
know. My
Yeah.
goodness. Um, Yeah, I was going to say, I think uh, empathize with a lot of the feelings about like performing in front of other people because I think, you know, two things. Um, well, first off, I think, theater is a great way to make friends. I think it's a really unique way um, in that it's just the sheer amount of time you spend with people that makes you such great friends and is honestly why theater people are have that stigma of theater people is just because
Yeah.
they spend so much time with each other that it's kind
Yes.
of insane how much time you like. There are some, in a lot of cases you spend more time in the theater than you do in your own house, you
Yeah.
know and you're just spending all this time with all these people that of course you're bound to get close. Um and the second thing too, I think,
Or you're gonna hate their guts.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the other
Like,
side of the coin.
yeah.
Because there are going to be a few snarky actors who, just think they're better than themselves. And,
Yeah.
I've had to deal with that a lot. And
Oh
we can save
gosh.
that for like a Can of Worms episode or something.
Oh yes, there's so much tea I want to talk about.
But yeah, we're only talking about the good stuff this episode.
Yeah.
There's a dark side to theater that we can get into at a later time. But
Yes.
still staying on the positive.
Mm.
Another great thing too. I think that was a piece of salad from yesterday. Sorry. Did you see my like?
Yes, yeah, yes, I did. Oh gosh,
Sorry,
nobody's gonna be able to see the video of this, but it's just, oh man, it was.
I had to get it out. All right.
I had a moment of mental whiplash.
I could not continue speaking until I got it out because it was literally like. Anyway. The thing I really love about theater, I think, just with acting in general and with improv, I didn't really get into it this episode. I probably will a future episode. The second half of the question, career choices and improv city, that's a thing I can say for another time just because we're already kind of long. But the reason I'm still doing improv, right? The thing with performing and theater that I personally have found to be so intrinsically rewarding for me has been, I think theater is unique, or really the performing arts in general is unique in the sense that it separates itself from other arts in that you're completely enveloping, at least for the actor side of things. Like tech is a different issue, but for an actor, you're completely enveloping yourself in the role. And the quote I always remember from Atticus Finch when I read To Kill a Mockingbird, right?
Right.
One of his most famous quotes is, this isn't exact, but it's something along the lines of, you don't understand someone until you're in their shoes, right?
Yeah.
And being an actor is quite literally being in someone else's shoes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's, I think acting and theater, but like the whole arts as a whole, I think it is about expression. But I think what separates performing arts from, like visual arts is that sense of empathy. I think it has this huge, because you're literally stepping into someone else's shoes. And as an actor, you literally have to, write out, what's my subtext, what's my emotion during this beat. And it really helps you get to understand the character. But at the same time, you're also learning how to connect with people. And you're also learning how to understand people from another perspective, which is why I think theater people are among one of the most empathetic and sympathetic people out there, just because they know what it's like to be in other people's shoes. Just as a little bit, darker side of things, I won't go too much into detail, but another thing too is a little sad, but I won't make it too sad. But theater, I think, also was a way, specifically for theater, not for improv. Improv was a whole different issue. I'll get into that in another episode.
Right.
But for theater specifically, I think also really helped with self-esteem. And
Yes.
what I mean by that is, I don't think I'm too attractive, compared to like George Clooney. I don't know why I chose George Clooney of all, attractive people out there. I guess my mom's really into George Clooney or something like that. But I haven't been very fond of my physical appearance, and I've been bald, most of my life, right?
Right.
And having an opportunity to be someone else rather than yourself is a really, I guess, psychologically comforting feeling, which I know sounds really bad,
No,
but
I relate to it. Yeah.
yeah, but like in all honesty, being able to be not Neiman for a few minutes was absolutely great. I think just the idea of being someone who's living a better life than you are, just even for a few minutes, I
Yeah.
think is, a really good escape from reality. And I definitely felt that a lot of times during theater, especially like in some of the really like bad moments in my life, or
Mhm.
moments where I just felt really really bad about myself or my appearance or whatever. I could use theater and escape into a different reality, um, just because I could be someone who wasn't Neiman, and it was really nice, at the moment. And obviously, for it's not like that for everyone. I think it is for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
I definitely used it as a way of feeling better about myself in the sense of being someone else. But but that's why I really like theater. It's just the friends that
Yeah.
you make, and just the amount of empathy. And I can't get into it now just because I think we're like well over like the hour and 10 mark, right?
Actually, no, we haven't reached the hour mark yet.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, dude, go ahead.
um I won't get into it too much, but another thing too is that theater really has influenced me to go into the medical field, because as a physician you need to be empathetic. That's like the first, like,
Yeah.
that's the core value of a physician. If you don't have empathy, what's the point of learning all the biology and the chemistry and the
Ooh,
physics, right?
that actually gives me an idea for another topic for a Can of Worms episode. Let me just scribble that down.
The medical field.
The medical field,
Yeah.
or specifically, the American medical field.
Ah, yes, yes, yes,
Ooh,
yes.
Can of Worms.
Um,
I guess we just gotta save that for the podcast episode of Can of Worms.
that's right. Tune in. Um,
But yeah, you were saying?
but yeah, no, the arts definitely has really influenced me to go into yeah, addressing the second part of the original question all those minutes ago. Um, yeah, so I'm an aspiring psychiatrist. Um, Psychiatry does require that you go to medical school. It's something that I have done at this point very extensive research on. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent on forums, Reddit, research sites on the subject. So I'm aware of the amount of work it takes, but it is something that I am hopefully going into. Um, but currently majoring in psychology.
Respectable.
Yeah, it's great. I would highly
As what my
recommend.
parents would say.
but but yeah, I think the arts really, again, it's all about empathy. At the end of the day, all art is about empathy and expression. And as a doctor, I'm sure at some point either the viewer or you, Aaron, have had the experience of interacting with the doctors, just like, how are you? Oh, that's good,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Like the
Or
default speech pattern of like
yeah,
like an NPC or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly, like an NPC. They just have
Yeah.
like generic dialogue that they just spew out while they're
Yeah, it's
checking
just
your
yeah.
belly button.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, how are you? Oh, my ribs have grown into my heart. Oh, that's great. Okay. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And I think a background in the performing arts is crucial. Well, not crucial, but very beneficial to a physician.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of technique, like in the techniques of theater, such as, standing, grounded with your, shoulders, back, and, having a, being aware of your facial expressions, because facial expressions can say a lot. Because, you're going to die in 24 hours sounds a lot different from you're going to die in 24 hours.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of people, don't utilize their facial expressions as, as much as they should.
Or maybe getting into improv for, finding the right words for the right situation,
Exactly. And,
instead of saying, you're going to die, instead say, you will unfortunately pass away in about 2 seconds. Like that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And interestingly enough, they actually have improv specifically for doctors.
Oh.
That they have like different programs going around, and is a growing field too, where they're actually teaching doctors like improv techniques, which I think is just so great. And hopefully
Dude, that is so awesome.
Yeah, and hopefully get into at some point, just because it's so, I feel like, as another philosophy thing, I feel like it's a little biased, but I feel like everyone should know improv.
Just a bit, like at least just a bit.
Yeah, at least just a bit. Know the gist, and know why people do it. Because surprisingly, there's a lot of people who have no idea what improv is, which boggles me. But I think there's just so much, and I also didn't get into it this episode, but there's just so much, again, with the technique of theater and improv that can be translated to other aspects of life, which I think is just so great.
So, are we still talking about the question, by the way?
I went into it a little bit. I didn't go in depth, but
gotcha. Because I saw that it was still recording, except I couldn't hear anything because my internet went. So,
yeah, there might be a few patchy spots.
So yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
But yeah, I mean, like speech techniques in general is just good to have in like period. Like but yeah, we currently hit the hour mark. Like it's been 3 minutes since we hit the hour mark. We can save like the dark side of theater and the American healthcare system for the Can of Worms episode. I just wanted to say that what you said reminded me of something a theater teacher of mine in here in OCC said. Phyllis, who is the goddess of theater, not self-proclaimed. She is the goddess of theater. It has been proven. Okay, so she at some point in the lecture said, theater is therapeutic, and it really is. I mean, like if you if you ever attend like a theater class, not in like a big acting school or an art school or anything like that, just like a community college, where people just walk in to get the class and just have an experience of it. You'd see that it just ranges for everyone from just recently graduated high school students to like 70-year-olds who are coming back to gain an experience of the thing, which is really awesome for me because it's like, I mean, in my mind, theater is like a language, I mean, think about it. It has been created in ancient Greece, and it has developed and spread across the world and evolved in many ways. And it as long as you have a stage and 2 people, it's theater. Not even 2 people. As long as you have a stage and 1 person, it's theater. All you need is 1 other person to be the audience, and there you go. That's the show. That's what I wanted to say before we wrap it up.
Just as a really quick, just to end on a super like funny anecdote.
Yes.
It's really quick. that reminds me of this actually happened last year. We went to Fullerton Theater Festival. Um, and this just happened, not to brag or anything. I did get first place in contemporary comedic monologues at the festival.
Flexing on us.
It's important to the story.
Not to brag.
But I won at that festival in that category, and we had a unrelated to the festival, we had a comedy sports bonding where we just went to our friend's house just to chill and hang out. And yeah, when you said all you need is a stage and a person, right? They had me redo my monologue, even though I was very hesitant and very reluctant. I was like, guys, why do I have to do this? Some of you have already seen this, and it's not even that great. But I literally performed it in on this fake grass lawn in some backyard. And it was nighttime, so you couldn't even see my face. But they still liked it apparently. And it just goes to show, just you really can do theater anywhere as long as you have people. So
So yeah.
Thank you for listening to our podcast episode.
Thank you very much.
This has been the Save It for the podcast. This is not Barack Obama. This is Neiman and...
Oh, my name. Aaron. Hello.
Aaron. And not Golem. Thank you for listening.
I know, bitches!